The stars above were peaceful that night, as if they didn't know war had already begun. Jack stood near the edge of the observation deck, looking out at the distant planet below. He didn't belong here. He was just a logistics officer, not a soldier, not a diplomat, but orders had come fast. The human colony ship was caught near alien space, and he was chosen for an emergency meeting with the alien consul. He had no idea why. The ship shuddered earlier when the alien patrols arrived. Massive vessels shaped like wings of stone surrounded them. No attack, no warning shots. Just one message. Bring the human called Jack Carter, or we open fire. Now Jack was standing inside a golden hall filled with creatures taller than him, with armor that looked alive and eyes that glowed like burning moons. The alien consul rose from her seat, her presence alone silencing the entire chamber. Her robe shimmered like fluid metal, and her crown pulsed with light. Everyone in the room bowed. Jack didn't know what to do, so he just stood still. She walked toward him slowly, her face calm but unreadable. Then she spoke, and her voice echoed without sound. The war you started must be ended through bond. Jack's heart pounded. He hadn't started anything. The humans didn't even fire a shot. He opened his mouth to speak, but she raised a hand and continued. By galactic law, a human must wed the daughters of our blood to preserve peace. The bloodline must unite. You are chosen. He blinked. Wait, what? Was all he managed to say. Two alien girls stepped forward. They were unlike anything he'd ever seen. Beautiful, glowing, tall, with delicate faces and skin that shimmered with soft colors. Their eyes locked on him, one curious, one stern. They bowed politely, but Jack could feel their power. These were not girls who smiled easily. One of them had claws. The other had wings. You can't be serious, Jack whispered, but the consul nodded. Our law binds us. Your ship crossed into sacred space. Only a bond can undo the tension. You will choose one of my granddaughters, or the war begins, she said. Jack felt his legs weaken. He wasn't a hero. He didn't want to be part of alien politics. He was supposed to unload crates and monitor food supplies. And now two alien warrior princesses were looking at him like he was a prize goat. The guards stepped closer. Not threatening, but not gentle either. Jack swallowed hard. I need time, he said. The consul raised an eyebrow, then gave a slow nod. You have 3 rotations. Spend time with them. Speak to them. Decide. But if you reject both, our fleets will come. She warned. Jack was escorted to a chamber with bright crystal walls and floating plants that glowed like stars. The 2 alien girls followed him. One introduced herself as Viral, tall, proud, with violet skin and eyes like ice. The other said her name was Luma, quieter, with silver hair and a voice that barely rose above a whisper. Both were deadly, and both seemed to be watching his every breath. This is crazy, Jack muttered once the guards left. You don't want this either, do you? But neither answered. Viral stepped closer. I don't want a weak mate, she said. But I follow the law. I follow honor. If you choose me, I will protect you, but I will not love easily. Jack turned to Luma. She looked down at the floor and finally spoke. I don't know you yet, but I won't hurt you. That's all I can promise. Jack sat on the soft bench behind him. He didn't sleep that night. He kept wondering, how could a crate counter like him become part of a galactic treaty? And what did it mean to marry one of them? Did they even understand what marriage was to humans? Would they live with him? Did they expect children? His head was full of questions, but the biggest one was this: why him? Why Jack Carter? He didn't know that deep inside the Consul's court, a secret was being kept from him. One of the girls already knew something about him, something that was never told to him. A bloodline that stretched farther than he imagined. And a connection that went back before he was born. 3 days, that's all he had. 3 days to understand. 2 alien princesses. And choose one to marry or let the galaxy burn. Asterisk. Jack woke up to the sound of soft humming echoing through the crystal walls. It wasn't music. It was more like the planet itself was breathing. When he sat up, he saw Luma sitting quietly in the corner, her silver hair glowing faintly in the light. She was holding a plant in her hands, one that floated and shimmered like stardust. She didn't look at him, but she spoke first. "You didn't sleep well. The chamber knows. It records heartbeats," she said calmly. Jack rubbed his face and groaned. "No, I didn't sleep. Kinda hard when alien war depends on who I kiss." He tried to joke, but she didn't smile. "I don't want this either," she whispered. "But I don't want war, not again." He turned to face her. "What do you mean again?" Her eyes flicked toward him, then down. "My mother died in the last war, before I was born. My sister Virel saw it. She doesn't talk about it, but she remembers the fire. The screams. She lost half her squad. We were born after the treaty. We're the result of peace. And now we're the key to keeping it," she said softly. Jack felt something twist inside him. These weren't just royal girls wearing crowns. They were weapons in a game he didn't understand. Tools for peace, maybe, but still used without their choice. The chamber door opened with a low tone. Virel walked in wearing training armor, her body lean and sharp like a blade. She looked at Jack, then tossed something at his chest. He barely caught it. A simple tunic, dark blue with gold trim, dressed like someone who doesn't want to get vaporized. She said flatly. Jack sighed. "Where are we going now? Another fancy hall?" "No," she said. "You'll train with me. If you plan to choose either of us, you should know how to survive in our world. I won't bond with a male who hides behind walls." Before Jack could argue, she turned and walked out. Luma rose slowly, looking at him once more before following. He had no choice. A warship had already locked targeting systems on Earth before the humans agreed to peace talks. The smallest insult could start another war. So Jack put on the tunic and followed them down a glowing corridor that curved like a snake's spine. They stepped into an arena. The sky above was artificial, filled with stars that shimmered as if real. Alien warriors sparred in silence, their weapons humming with energy. Virel pointed at the center ring. "You'll fight. With me, no killing. But you will bleed," she said. Jack blinked. "Wait, you want me to fight you? I've never even punched anyone in my life." "That's a problem," she said and threw him a practice spear. He barely caught it before she charged. The first strike knocked him to the ground. Pain shot through his ribs and the wind flew out of his chest. The crowd watching said nothing. No one laughed. No one helped. Jack realized this was normal here. Trial by combat wasn't cruelty, it was communication. He got up slowly, tried to swing the spear, and missed again. Virel landed a hit on his shoulder, then another on his thigh. Pain stung him over and over until he dropped the weapon. She stepped back and studied him. "You're weak. But you didn't run. That's the first thing that matters." He leaned against the floor, sweating and breathing hard. "And what's the second?" "Understanding why we fight," she said and turned away. Later, they sat on a bench under a dome of light. Jack's body ached, but his mind was sharper than before. "So, what happens if I pick neither of you?" Luma, sitting beside him, replied quietly. "Then our people send ships. You won't survive. We won't either. The law is binding. It's older than either of our races." Jack's voice dropped. "Why me? Why did the law pick me?" Virel looked at him then. "Because your blood is not pure. You're not just human. There's something old in you. The Consul knows. We know." He stared at them. "What are you talking about?" Luma reached out and gently touched his hand. "The law reacts to bonds. Not just politics, but bloodlines. Somewhere in your past, There was someone like us. You don't know it. But the law recognized it the moment you stepped into our system. Jack felt cold. His whole life he'd been normal. Below average, even. And now they were saying his blood might be the reason peace or war would start. As they walked back to the chamber, Jack's thoughts raced. Virel and Luma were powerful in their own ways. They didn't beg for his choice, but each had shared a piece of themselves. And behind every word, there was still a secret they hadn't revealed, and the clock was ticking. One day had already passed. 2 remained. Then he would have to decide. Jack didn't sleep on the second night either. Not because of fear, but because of questions. Deep ones. He sat on the edge of his glowing bed, hands gripping his knees. He kept hearing Luma's voice. Your blood is not fully human. He had no idea what that meant. His parents were both human. His life had been normal. Boring, even. So how could he carry alien blood? The door chimed. He expected a guard. But it was Luma. She entered without a word, carrying a glowing cube in her hands. She placed it gently on the floor. Light spread upward, forming a soft projection. A vision of 2 people, one human, one alien embracing beneath twin moons. That's your great-grandmother, Luma said softly. The male beside her is a soldier, a Terran. He never knew what she truly was. She kept her form hidden until the end of the war, but their child carried both stars. Jack watched the scene. Silent, the woman had silver hair, the same color as Luma's. Her eyes were full of sorrow and love. He leaned forward. And their child was my grandmother? Yes. The Consul discovered the truth when you arrived. Your blood reacted to the Grand Court stone. It glows only for those with ancestral ties, she said. Jack stood and walked back. But that doesn't make me one of you. I didn't grow up in a star palace. I ate cereal in a plastic bowl and rode the city train every day. Luma gave a small smile. That's why you might be the right choice. You know what? It means to live low. You would never rule from the clouds. Jack sighed. But I don't want to rule. I don't want this marriage. I don't want war, she whispered again. That night, the stars above the chamber dimmed. It was a sign from the court. Time was running short. The next morning, Virel took him to the Hall of Blades. She said nothing during the walk. Jack's wounds from training still ached. He limped slightly, but she didn't slow down. The Hall of Blades was quiet. No guards. No servants. Just a massive chamber filled with energy weapons from every corner of the galaxy. Virel walked up to a pedestal and picked up a slender curved blade with dark markings along the side. This belonged to my mother, she said. She died with it in her hand. She was the last to fall. Her body was never recovered. Her soul became part of our stone. Jack stepped closer. Is this where you come when you want to remember her? Virel nodded. I come here when I want to feel something. I don't cry. I train. I strike. I keep moving. If I stop, the pain will swallow me. She looked at him, serious. If you choose me, I won't give you comfort. I will give you strength, my loyalty, my sword, but not soft hands. Jack understood now. Virel wasn't cold. She was trying to hold herself together. Her mother died for peace, and now she might have to marry a stranger to protect it. Suddenly, an alarm blared. Through the palace, the lights turned red. Guards ran past them in silence, their helmets snapping into place. Jack's chest tightened. Luma rushed into the hall. Enemy fleet just entered orbit. Rebel clan from the South Star Ring. They don't recognize the court's law. They think our alliance is betrayal. Virel drew her blade without hesitation. Get into the safe core, now, Jack grabbed her arm. I'm not running again. I'm tired of being dragged. What can I do? Virel stared at him, her jaw clenched. Then she threw him a small circular device. This is a signal charm. If something happens to either of us, press it. It'll call our house fleet. Luma grabbed his wrist. You can't fight, but you can witness. The court must know what happens today. They ran through a tunnel lit by blue fire. The sky above the outer dome cracked as enemy ships fired warning shots. Guards took position. Shields flared. And in the distance, Jack saw a massive beast-like warship descend with 6 glowing legs and spikes like bones. It was not a simple rebellion. This was an attempt to stop the Union before it began. Inside the chamber of safety, Jack watched the battle through the glass walls. He saw Varel strike down attackers with fierce speed. Luma guided the wounded to safety, her hands glowing with healing light. Both of them were risking their lives for peace. Jack clenched the signal charm in his hand, heart pounding. He had never felt more helpless. And yet something inside him shifted, not fear, but resolve. He understood something now. These weren't just girls fighting because of a law. They were choosing to stand, choosing to protect. Even without his decision, and maybe, just maybe, it was time he chose something too. Asterisk smoke filled the upper chambers as battle raged in the skies above. Jack stood with clenched fists, watching from the transparent dome as fire lit the horizon. Alien ships with bone-like wings circled the palace, firing bursts of light that shook the ground. Every flash made the glass tremble. Outside, the guards fought with blades and shields, but they were outnumbered. Luma rushed back into the chamber. Panting, her silver hair was tied back, streaked with ash. She knelt beside a wounded officer and placed her hands over his chest. Soft blue energy flowed from her palms, slowing the bleeding. She glanced at Jack once, her eyes tired but focused. "You need to stay here," she said. "If they breach the dome, press the charm. Do not wait." Jack shook his head. "I'm not just going to watch you both die. You are the law's anchor. If you fall, the bond fails." "That's what they want," she said. The floor rumbled again. A deep grinding sound echoed beneath them, as if the planet itself was in pain. Virel appeared seconds later, dragging a rebel commander behind her. His armor was scorched, and he spat blood as she threw him to the ground. "They're trying to destroy the treaty stone," she growled. "If they break it, the law won't protect us anymore," the rebel hissed through broken teeth. "The bond is a lie. The Consul controls bloodlines for power. The humans are just tools." Virel drew her blade, but Jack stepped forward. "Wait, let him speak." The rebel glared at him. "You think they chose you because of love? You are a symbol, a shield of false unity. They would sacrifice you the moment the peace holds." Jack's stomach twisted. The words hit harder than they should have. Was he truly just a piece in someone else's plan? Virel looked at Jack. "He's trying to divide us. That's their tactic. Lies before blades." Jack nodded, but doubt lingered in his heart. If everything was built on ancient blood and secret oaths, where did his feelings even matter? Luma stood and touched his arm. "You have a choice, not just between me and her, but between peace and chaos. The court is watching. The galaxy is watching." He looked at both of them. Virel sharp, loyal, and scarred by loss. Luma gentle, wise, but burning with hidden strength. And then there was him. A human caught between stars and laws he didn't create. He reached into his tunic and gripped the signal charm. He hadn't pressed it yet. Not because he was afraid, but because he was waiting for the right moment. The one that felt real. The enemy troops began pushing toward the inner gate. The guards outside were falling back. Virel turned toward the exit, ready to fight again. "We'll hold them." "Don't move until I say." Jack stepped forward. "No, this time I go with you." Virel turned, stunned. "You'll die." "I'd rather die choosing something than live being a symbol," he said. Luma moved between them. "Then we stand together." The three of us. They left the chamber side by side. Outside, the air was filled with energy bolts and shouting. The alien court was nearly overrun. Fires blazed across the palace walls. Jack picked up a fallen weapon, not a blade, but a short energy staff. He wasn't trained, but his hands didn't shake. They reached the stone chamber at the palace's center. The sacred treaty stone glowed dimly now, its light fading as the enemy approached. Two rebel leaders stood inside, their weapons raised. One held a charge detonator aimed straight at the heart of the stone. "You're too late," the taller one said. "Once this explodes, your bond means nothing." Varel didn't wait. She leapt forward, blade flashing. Luma darted left, drawing fire away from the stone. Jack raised the energy staff and charged forward, heart thundering. He had no plan. Just instinct, and one goal stopped them. He swung the staff clumsily, but hard. The weapon cracked against the rebel's hand, sending the detonator flying. Varel caught it mid-air and threw it aside. Jack took a punch to the face but stayed standing. Blood ran from his lip, but his eyes stayed locked on the attackers. With a final sweep of her blade, Varel knocked both rebels to the ground. Silence fell inside the chamber. Only the hum of the wounded treaty stone remained. Jack staggered to his feet. "We're not symbols," he said. "We're not weapons, we're people. We bleed, we decide." He reached forward and placed his hand on the glowing stone. Luma and Varel joined him, each placing a hand beside his. The stone pulsed once, then flared with light so bright it filled the room. The fighting outside stopped. Every being across the palace felt the energy shift. The stone had accepted the bond. But no one knew what it truly meant yet. The moment their hands touched the treaty stone, the entire palace glowed with power. A surge of light rippled through the walls, through the floor, through the sky above. The invaders outside dropped their weapons, stunned by the force that pulsed. From the center chamber, the battle ended not with blood, but with silence. Jack stumbled back, his hand burning slightly. He looked down and saw faint markings glowing on his skin, symbols not in human language, but ancient galactic runes. Varel saw them too and stepped forward, eyes wide. "That mark. It's the seal of the first pact," she whispered. Luma placed her hand over Jack's. "You didn't just form a bond. The stone chose you as the bearer. That hasn't happened in generations." Jack's voice was dry. "What does that mean?" Varel stepped around him, blade lowered but ready. "It means the stone doesn't want just a union. It wants a leader, a bridge. You're no longer just a mate. You're part of the ruling line now." Jack sat down on the floor, staring at his glowing palm. This wasn't in the job description. Luma smiled softly. "You could still say no. But the galaxy might say yes for you." Before Jack could reply, the grand chamber doors opened. The alien consul herself entered, her robe dragging over the floor like waves of gold. Behind her stood the court elders, warriors, scholars, and officials. All eyes were on him. "You have made your choice," the consul said. "But the stone made one as well. The law is satisfied. The war is averted. But now a new duty begins." Jack stood slowly. "What duty?" "To guide both races. To show that our union is not just law but understanding," she answered. Varel's face remained calm, but Jack could see a storm behind her eyes. Luma stood beside him like a quiet flame, her energy steady. And Jack? He was a human who once moved crates. Now he was bound by ancient laws, chosen by stone, and standing between worlds. The consul raised her hand. "You must now complete the rite. You must choose. Which granddaughter shall you take as your mate? This decision cannot be delayed. The court must witness." Jack froze. He had walked into this world with no power. Now he had too much. He looked at both women. One had fought beside him. One had healed the wounded. Both had risked their lives to protect him. But one had already made her heart known. Varel stepped forward first. "If you choose me, I will give everything. My sword, my strength. But not softness. I don't know how to love gently. I only know how to protect." Then Luma stepped forward. "If you choose me, I'll walk quietly beside you. I'll never control you. I don't want a throne. I only want peace for us and for the galaxy." Jack looked at the court. The faces showed no emotion. The galaxy watched with invisible eyes. This was no longer about war. It was about future. He stepped forward, heart racing. Then he turned to the one who had touched his spirit without shouting, without force. To the one who healed, not just bodies, but hearts. "I choose Luma," Jack said. Gasps echoed across the chamber. Virel blinked once, then lowered her head. She stepped back in silence, her hand gripping the hilt of her blade. She said no words, but her eyes showed no hate, only acceptance. And perhaps a shadow of pain. Luma placed her hand in Jack's. Her touch was warm. The treaty stone pulsed once more, brighter than before. The court bowed. The consul stepped forward and laid a silver circlet upon Jack's head. "By this bond, the war ends. By this bond, our path begins," she said. Outside, ships turned and left orbit. The rebel fleet retreated. The fires were extinguished. Peace returned, but it was not the same peace as before. This one had a face, a name, a bond. Jack stood in the center of the court, holding Luma's hand. The palace sang in light. But deep inside, he knew this was not the end. It was the beginning of something much greater. And in the shadows of the stars, not all enemies would accept it so easily. 2 weeks had passed since the bond ceremony. But Jack still felt like a stranger in a dream. He now wore the circlet of unity, an ancient mark of royal bond. But he wasn't royalty. Not really. He still felt like the same man who once organized supply crates and monitored food logs. But every time he looked at Luma, and every time her hand found his, the weight on his chest felt lighter. The palace had become quiet again. No warships hovered above. No alarms shook the walls. The halls no longer echoed with fear, but with curious whispers. Courtiers bowed as Jack passed. Children of the noble houses stared at him with awe. Some still didn't believe peace had come. Luma stayed close to him, never forcing words. She would sit with him in the crystal gardens, show him how the living vines reacted to emotion, and teach him alien languages by writing in light across the stone walls. Slowly, the court began to accept that this strange human was now part of their future, but not everyone was pleased. Hidden within the lower courts, rebellion still smoldered. They saw Jack as a mistake, a weak link in the chain of ancient blood. And in secret, a plot had begun. Varel stood at the edge of the training grounds, blade in hand, watching soldiers move in perfect rhythm. Her heart still burned, not with jealousy, but with duty. She had accepted Jack's choice, but she had not stopped protecting him. She sensed something wrong the moment she saw the old priest enter the outer gate. His name was Volker, once banished for war crimes. His return meant only one thing: trouble. She followed him through the shadows, her instincts screaming. And when she saw him placing a glowing sphere beneath the treaty stone chamber, she knew. He planned to break the bond and restart the war. Varel moved fast, blade flashing as she struck down his guards. But Volker activated the device and fled. Before she could reach him, a red pulse surged through the palace, making lights flicker and walls hum. Jack felt the shift instantly. Luma clutched her head, her link to the stone shaken. "Something's wrong," she gasped. They ran toward the heart of the palace, where the treaty stone stood. Virel arrived at the same time, her armor scorched and eyes fierce. He placed a fracture bomb. "It's destabilizing the stone. If it shatters, the galaxy will fall apart." Jack didn't hesitate. "How do we stop it?" "You don't," Virel said. "I do." She reached for the sphere, but Luma stopped her. "It will kill you." Varel looked at them both. "Let me serve one last time, not for law. Not for glory, for peace." Jack stepped forward. "No, that's not how this ends." He grabbed the sphere and pressed his marked hand against it. The energy inside responded to his blood, glowing brighter. Pain surged through his body, burning like 1,000 fires, but he stayed on his feet. Luma placed her hand over his, and Varel joined them, completing the bond once more. The stone pulsed with all three of them connected. Light poured out, swallowing the damage, reversing the fracture. The bomb lost power. The threat faded. And the galaxy watched as the human, the healer, and the warrior stood united again. When the light faded, Jack collapsed to one knee, breath shallow but steady. Varel caught him, holding him up with one arm. "You fool," she said, voice shaking. "You could have died." "But I didn't," he whispered, "because I wasn't alone." The court declared the act a sacred miracle. The unity of all. Three had awakened something ancient, something beyond law. The stone no longer pulsed just with tradition. It now carried choice. It now carried love, loyalty, and sacrifice. The Consul herself stepped down from her throne and knelt before them. "You have proven the bond is not chains but strength," she said. "Let this mark the beginning of a new age." In the months that followed, Jack became more than a symbol. He became a voice of peace between species. He listened to problems, settled disputes, and traveled to war-torn colonies with Luma by his side. Wherever he went, the galaxy remembered the human who chose love over fear. Varel returned to her post as commander, but she visited often. She no longer carried her pain alone. She had found her place, not as Jack's mate, but as the shield that stood beside him. And when Jack looked up at the stars at night, he no longer wondered why me. Now he only whispered what's next. With a quiet heart and a bonded soul, he came from Earth with nothing but doubt and left a mark on the galaxy that would never be forgotten.